Hi, and welcome to the Great Journey Read Aloud, our Tiger's Great Journey Read Aloud. We are continuing our chapter on the Dungeon of Creativity. We left Tiger in the dungeon. He had just escaped from his cell with these new powers that he had discovered. So let's continue on and see what happens with the rest of the story. Tiger thought about Blake and headed out the door to find him. Out in the hall, Tiger stopped at the top of the stairs. He emptied his mind and heard the faint movement of air, dripping water, and voices. He decided it was safe enough to proceed down the stairs. At the bottom, he turned to go back towards his cell, knowing that Blake was being held in a cell nearby. Moving quickly, Tiger remained steady and balanced. He remembered Sensei saying, "You can't think correctly if you're scared or panicked." As Tiger approached the cells, he looked around for places to hide. He shuddered when he saw an alcove with rings, chains, and shackles attached to the wall. There was another dark passageway that he had not seen before. Tiger moved cautiously towards his former cell to try to find where Blake was being held. He listened carefully for a clue and heard muffled voices. He crept over to that door and peered through the keyhole. He saw Blake sitting in a chair facing the door. Tiger could make out at least one person standing, talking to Blake with his back to the door. How can I take advantage of this? I need to know the layout of the room. Tiger looked back down the passage and saw a torch. He went to get it but couldn't reach it, since it was mounted high on the wall. He looked further down the passage and saw another torch that he thought he could reach if he stood on the stair and stretched out. He was extending his arm up to grab the torch when he heard a door open. He retreated quickly back down the passage and into the dark corridor. A figure in a black robe came into view and stopped at the door to Blake's cell. He pulled out a set of keys and unlocked it. Tiger pressed back as new light filled the passage where he stood. A woman on the inside of the cell appeared at the door and spoke to the man. "He's escaped," Hisser said. "How is that possible?" she replied sharply and motioned him to follow her. They walked out of Blake's cell but turned around to keep an eye on Blake as they whispered to each other in angry hisses about 5 feet from where Tiger was hiding. "I don't know. He was able to command fire. He surprised us and fled to the guard room. Those imbeciles let him run right past after them after he had extinguished their torches. Incompetence! I will deal with them in time. Have you searched the whole area? Did he reach the cave exit?" "We have looked and are starting the search over. We don't know if he made it out. It also appears that there are items missing from the guard room. One of the fools lost his keys." Anger streaked across her face. Did the boy get them? It's possible. If he did, he could be hiding somewhere. Does he know of his friend? I don't know. We did not speak to him as you instructed. When we found them sleeping at the cave entrance, it appeared that they were just seeking shelter from the cold for the night. We put them in the cells, and they did seem to sleep as if in a trance or under a sleeping spell. What of these strange uniforms? The symbol they wore upon their chests? What does the wizard say? It appears that they belong to some guild we're not aware of. Find the boy, she growled. Tell those fools that if he isn't back by the time I finish here, they will wish they had escaped with him. We don't know how they got here or if more are coming. Now it's time to press the second boy for answers. Being nice doesn't seem to be working. Tiger thought he could see fire burning in her eyes as she looked in his direction briefly before walking back to Blake's cell. She slammed the door shut. The lock clanked, and then sudden silence fell. Hisser turned and left. Tiger knew that the time for action had arrived. He grabbed the torch, took it down, moved quickly and quietly to Blake's door, and went to work. Slowly, Tiger worked the torch back and forth along the bottom edge of the door. At first, the old wood resisted the flame, but after a while, it turned black and then started to char and smoke. Tiger smiled to himself. His plan was working. He wasn't sure how much smoke was going into the room, but he knew it would be enough. Tiger could hear that the woman's voice had elevated and become very shrill. He heard what sounded like a slap, but couldn't be sure. Events unfolded rapidly. The bolt snapped back. Tiger barely had enough time to move before the door was jerked open. Tiger saw the woman at the same time she saw him. She drew her hand back to strike him when he tossed the torch at her feet and dove forward. As he did, the woman stumbled backwards and fell over Blake's outstretched foot. She landed hard and didn't move. Tiger pulled a knife from his robe and cut Blake's hands free. Blake stood up and thanked Tiger, who said, "There's no time. We've got to get out of here." Tiger pulled out the key ring out from under his robes. "See if one of these fit into the door." Blake started trying the keys. The third one worked. "Keep the key ready. We need to move quickly. But first, I'm going to tie her up so she can't follow us." Tiger quickly bound the woman's hands and feet with the rope he had found in the guard room. Then he picked up the torch and he and Blake left quickly, with Blake locking the door behind them. As they moved towards the stairs, Tiger paused and reached out from the step to return the torch to its place on the wall. He said, "Light!" and it sprung to life. "Cool," Blake said. "How'd you do that?" "I don't know. I haven't had the time to figure it out," Tiger replied. It was time to leave. Tiger knew that it wouldn't take long for the guards to figure out something was wrong. He knew that he had to get creative again. He looked at Blake. "You're my prisoner," he said. Blake looked a little doubtful. Tiger explained, "I took this robe from the guard room. I should just be tall enough to pull off being a guard. When I was in there, I saw a door that went out into the hall and on the other side. We're going to walk right into that room and out the other side." They walked back up to the door to the guard room. Tiger whispered to Blake to hold his arms behind his back with his wrists crossed like they were tied. "Act as if you're scared," he said. "It will make it more believable." Blake whispered back, "I am scared for real." Tiger nodded. "Me too." He was relieved to see that the door to the guard room was slightly ajar. He knew if he had to try several keys, they'd be on to him. He pushed open the door with his left foot while holding tight to Blake. One of the two guards looked up at Tiger and asked, "What are you doing?" Tiger tried to make his voice sound like a grown man. "The other guard spotted the boy down below. She told me to move his friend up to the top floor because he's trying to break out. You're supposed to go down and help." Tiger had both guards' full attention now. He continued to move Blake across the room. "Why are you alone?" the second guard asked. "We're supposed to work in teams." 4 more steps to the second door of the guard room. "She told me to go and kept my partner to help look. They just saw him. You should hurry." The guard closest to them was putting on his cloak while the second guard was walking toward the cloak rack. But Tiger had been the feeling that he wasn't buying the story. "You should wait here. You can walk him in here and come with us," the first guard said. "Gotta go," Tiger said. As he reached for the knob of the door, his cloak caught on Blake's hand. The sleeve pulled back, revealing just enough of his gi for the guards to see. "Hey!" shouted the second guard. Tiger jerked the door open, pushed himself and Blake through, and slammed it shut. The guards grabbed the handle from the inside and pulled. Tiger pulled from the outside with all of his strength. "Lock it!" he cried to Blake, but the guards were much too strong. Tiger quickly let go of the handle, and with that, the door flew open and the guards fell back inside the room. Tiger grabbed the door again, pulled it shut, and at the same time, Blake locked it tight. "Watch out!" Tiger said. He used the butt of the knife to break off the key into the lock. "Good work, Tiger," Blake said. "I couldn't have done it without you." Tiger pulled the cloak off over his head. "This will only hold me back," he said as he threw it to the floor. The two boys turned and moved rapidly up the corridor. As they rounded the corner, they entered a vast chamber and found themselves face to face with Hisser. "Now you're mine," Hisser said as he pulled his cloak off in one motion, revealing a black gi with a red dragon across the chest. "I've had enough of you two." He bowed to Tiger. Tiger started to bow back, but thought better of it. He remembered Sensei telling him to be aware at all times. Sure enough, Hisser tried an attack at that moment. It was a savage kick to Tiger's belly, but he shifted left and blocked it with his right arm. Tiger circled to Hisser's blind side, intending to create an advantage, but Hisser turned and lashed out with a wicked punch to Tiger's chest. Tiger didn't see the punch in time to totally avoid it. Fortunately, Tiger turned his hips right at the moment, and the blow only grazed him. It hurt, but not as bad as it could have. Tiger spun and kicked back Hisser in the chest. Hisser was jolted, but he kept his composure and countered with a quick, powerful step-in punch. Tiger threw his arm up and barely avoided getting hit hard. It was a last-chance reaction that wasn't elegant, but it did the job. At that moment, Tiger saw his chance. Hisser had lost his balance, and Tiger reacted with a devastating front thrust kick that caught him in the lower abdomen. Hisser flew back, hitting the stone floor. Tiger looked around. In the midst of this battle, other guards had charged into the room. They had stayed to the back to give Hisser room to move. Now they were staring at him in disbelief, shocked to see their leader in a heap on the floor. Tiger gave Blake a look that said run, and they both bolted from the hall. The guards reacted, but too slowly. Before they knew what was happening, Tiger and Blake were out the door and racing toward the exit. The two boys saw daylight emanating from a large door at the far end of the hall. It was unguarded. Tiger assumed the guards who ran into the room with Hisser must have abandoned their post here. After flying out the door, the boys saw there was only one way to go. Unfortunately, it led to a ledge requiring a long jump, because to get to the other side, they had to cross a chasm that dropped hundreds of feet down. If they didn't jump far enough forward, they would fall to their death. Tiger yelled, "We can make it." He backed up and then ran straight towards the edge. Blake did the same. Both boys leaped high into the air. As Tiger soared across, he remembered thinking, "This is a long, long jump." He then opened his eyes and found himself sitting safely on his bed at home. So we will be finishing our story next time on Tiger's Great Journey Read Aloud. I look forward to having you back with me. Have a great day. Thanks for listening.